Welcome to the Awesemo NASCAR DFS Strategy Show, as we are here to get you ready for tomorrow's Toyota Save Mart 350, the third road race of 2021. Of course, I am Jason Floyd, as always, joined by my man. You know him as Race Sheets. I know him as Phill. Phill, how's it going here this Saturday afternoon, man?
Good, bud. Glad to be back on a Saturday doing the pod. Glad to have you back after missing you last weekend. Whenever I get to do a pod with Alex, it's always a treat. But man alive, trying to keep that train on the track is it's a journey to say the least. But here we are doing the strategy show for a road race that looks like it's not going to be affected by rain, which has me excited.
Of course, we are sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight. We'll tell you a little bit about Monkey Knife Fight here later on in the show. Of course, earlier today, I was reading your preview piece for this one, and a couple of notes that really took to me when we're talking about roster construction is how you describe Sonoma as a course, saying it's about driving skill, late braking, throttle, acceleration.
Right. This is truly a road racing track. Like, what we've seen over the last 2 years, we've seen COTA. And of course that was a track set up specifically for F1. And it was wildly affected by the rain. I mean, we had several drivers wreck out of that race because they literally could not see what was going on in front of them. I mean, you have the situation like Martin Truex Jr., where he is coming back through the field after getting to the lead. He can't see in front of him because of the rooster tail of water being kicked up by Cody Ware. And he ends up in the back of Cody Ware. And then Cole Custer can't see Martin Truex Jr. in front of him because of Martin Truex Jr.'s own rooster tail, and plows into him, basically gets Truex off the ground, and Truex ends up finishing 35th. I mean, there were so many drivers that were affected just because of the horrible conditions at that track. But outside of that, it's Rovals. We've got the Daytona Road Course twice, and then the Charlotte Rovals. So everything that we've seen from this season and the two road course races last year, it's practically been a rain-affected race and then two Rovals. And, Rovals, they're not exactly road courses in the purest sense. Yes, there is a road portion, road track racing portion of the track, but the vast majority of the track is that they're racing at is the oval itself. So here we are, 2.5 miles of tons of turns, tons of different elevation changes. This is a track that will truly come down to the amount of skill that a driver has, and that's what you love to see at a venue like this, and especially once again without any prospect of the weather affecting it.
Another thing that you wrote about is the amount of drivers that we have in the field tomorrow with no experience at this track, no qualifying, and you wrote about it. So that first lap is going to be their very first lap going around this course.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to try to project or try to figure out, because the Cup Series is the only series, the major of the three major series that comes to Sonoma. The trucks traditionally have always just gone to the road course in Canada, and looks like that's not happening this year. The Xfinity Series, they've kind of hop along from Mid-America to Watkins Glen, Mid-Ohio, add in the Roval, add in the road course at Indianapolis, but they never come out here. So if you are a rookie this year, or if you are a rookie from last year, you haven't seen this track. The rookies from last year didn't get to see this track because California was not open to racing once the start of racing happened again with COVID related restrictions. So as I'm looking here at the race sheets, I'm counting, it looks like 11 drivers, like you said, who have not seen this track. The best that they've got is the time that they've put in the simulator. So we're talking about Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, Cole Custer. Now, Cole Custer has seen some laps on this track. That was in a ARCA West at the time. I believe it was the K&N West Series. He's seen some laps there. Chase Briscoe. Now, Chase, just the same, is getting some laps in today in the K&N West Series, but oddly enough, he's the only Cup driver that is in that race. So it's a good arrow up for him. But then you've also got Anthony Alfredo, James Davison, Ben Rhodes is in Justin Haley's seat this week because Justin wasn't going to try to attempt to race the Xfinity Series race today and then get on a plane and fly out to California. You've got Josh Bilicki, you've got Garrett Smithley, you've got Scott Heckert, and you got Quinn House. I mean, we're talking about nearly a third of this field has not gotten to see what it's like to go through these braking zones, to figure out how to get in and out off of the brake and the acceleration. You know, it's gonna be a test to see for these guys just what they've done at the Rovals these last this season and last season included, and how that translates into what they could do at Sonoma tomorrow.
And of course, this is one of these tracks where we're prioritizing finishing position and place this differential over dominators. I know in your preview piece, you did write about that 2019 race in terms of, because we're only, we don't have a ton of laps here.
Yeah. We can't, like I said, we can't look at a race last year to try to figure out which way we're looking at. So we go back to 2019. That was a race with the high horsepower, low downforce package. It had the carousel. All of the races before that, they had not used the carousel, which was it's a portion of the track that they used to skip because it added basically an extra half mile to the race. But then they decided, okay, we're gonna add this portion in there. It'll basically we'll cut down the amount of laps that the drivers have, but it'll still make the race basically the same. So that's our only race where these two coexisting factors are basically the same. And when you look at that race, look at the optimal lineups. You've got Martin Truex Jr., who was basically a dominator. He led 59 of the 90 laps, and then you had a secondary dominator, William Byron, but he ended up falling back so far that his negative place differential basically canceled him out. And then it was about finishing in the top 10 and getting place differential. And really, that's our best guide for lineups tomorrow, whether you're looking at DraftKings or FanDuel. If we're talking about cash lineups, there's plenty of place differential drivers in this pool. Drivers that are starting in the double digits all the way back to 40 that you can get in the lineup. And I mean, it's not going to be like Daytona where you're going to have tons of salary left over. You're still going to feel fairly confident about it. And that's probably your best bet on FanDuel tool. But when it gets to tournaments, you've got to include these drivers that are going to get points via laps led and their fastest laps. There's not going to be that many to grab, but the matter of the fact is that some of these drivers are going to get these laps, and those precious few dominator points that they get, it's going to make them optimal. So you're going to have access to them in your lineups.
Of course, if you do have any questions about this race, you can leave it right there, whether it's in our Slack channel or on YouTube. I mentioned Joseph Ramirez says, does running an IndyCar count for Davidson since it's the same layout now?
That's a very good question. Really, if we're gonna consider just all types of racing efforts, and I mean, really, if you're trying to draw apples to apples between a K&N West race or an ARCA West race and a NASCAR Cup race, then you may as well make the same logical conclusion about James Davison racing in the Indy Series and then racing here at Sonoma. Whatever he's done with his statistics, I wouldn't get carried away with that, but it is good to know. And I'm glad he pointed that out. I forgot about that. Davison's time here in the Indy League. Just having lap time on this track is going to, necessarily give him an advantage over a bunch of guys in this field. And when we get to Davison, we'll talk about him in the punt range. But that precious track time probably will make him a preferential play versus the rest of these guys.
Now, of course, if there's ever a time that you cannot check out the Awesemo NASCAR Strategy Show here on YouTube, it is available on the Awesemo Podcast Network. Be sure to submit a 5-star review with your Twitter handle or Awesemo username included. You'll be entered to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. One winner will be awarded every Friday, and reviews are eligible up to 1 year. And this is the best chance out there to win a free month of Awesemo Plus, as you'll be competing against less people in this contest than or any other giveaway we run. So make sure to leave your 5-star review. We've got a podcast for every sport out there. And of course, it's on all the major podcasting platforms. Just go to awesemo.com/podcast to check out all the podcasts we have here at awesemo.com. Let's move into tier number 1 salary. So these will be the drivers that are 10K in the 10K range on DraftKings this week. So we've got Martin Truex Jr. starting 19th. He's 10,900 on DK, 14,000 over on FanDuel. Chase Elliott starting 2nd, 10,500 on DK, 14,500 on FanDuel. Kyle Busch starting 5th, 10.3 on DraftKings, 13 even on FanDuel. And Joey Logano starting 13th. He's 10,100 on DraftKings and 11,000. So I guess let's start right there. Martin Truex Jr., the most expensive driver, starting 19th, 10,900. What's your thoughts here?
Yeah, this is your back-to-back winner from 2019 and 2018 here at Sonoma. He's got another previous win. I believe it's 2013, back when he was racing for Michael Waltrip. So with this being a technical course, and considering what we've seen at in Truex at this track, you could also consider Watkins Glen. He was running really well at Coda before he he got the double whammy in the front and in the back. But I think he's got to be. I know the betting odds don't say this. The betting odds say Chase Elliott is going to be your winner, but I got to think from a technical perspective that Truex is probably the best bet to win. Starting 19th, it's not doing him any favors, and you will get frustrated at the very onset of this race watching drivers, because this is a tough track to pass out, and you've got to be very careful. You've got to definitely plan where you're going to pass drivers at. Thankfully, Truex is going to probably have the best skill out of everybody in this in this field, especially where he's starting to maneuver his way to the front. So Truex getting to the front, it's probably not going to happen in the first segment. You're probably looking at this in the second segment, but he's a bet to get to the lead. He's a bet to take advantage of all of this place differential. His salary isn't crazy at 10,900. If you get a top 5 finish and some fastest laps and some laps led points out of Truex, he's assuredly going to make value for you. He's going to be somewhere in that 60 plus point range. And quite frankly, when you look at that optimal lineup from 2019, he started 8th, he finished 1st, he had 21 fast laps, he had 59 laps led, and he ended up with 78.3 DraftKings points and 61.4 FanDuel points. So now we're giving Truex extra place differential. He could definitely, even if he doesn't lead as many laps, he can easily hit those same marks because of his place differential. What he's done this year and last year, it's not fantastic. Of course, got the 35th at Coda, 12th at the Daytona Road Course, 7th at the Charlotte Roval, and then 3rd at the Daytona Road Course back in 2019. But those tracks are, like I said, those tracks are more about what you do on the Roval as opposed to just pure road racing skill. Since we're getting back at Sonoma, getting back to actual road racing skill, I really, really like Truex. Don't be surprised if he is the highest owned driver because of what he's done at this track and that place differential. It's all lining up for him to be a fantastic play, but for him to be extremely chalky.
You look at Chase Elliott starting 2nd. So obviously when we're talking about finishing, place differential, pretty much it's either you're going to finish, he's going to win this race, or, he's going to obviously be below 2nd here. So is your thought of him potentially getting in front of Kyle Larson at the start and, maybe, racking up some laps led?
Yeah. Chase Elliott should have 4 straight victories at road courses. He won Coda in the rain. he was winning the Daytona road course before NASCAR decided to throw a phantom yellow flag for what may have been just a few sprinkles on the track, and that really jumbled up the field. He got punted, finished 21st, but then in 2019, in those two road races, he won both of those. Yeah, it simply comes down to who's going to win the basically the drag between him and Kyle Larson. And considering the road racing skill, I know that Larson is going to have the preferred line here, but oddly enough, you go back to that 2019 race, Larson started on the pole next to William Byron, and even though Larson had the preferred line, he got beat off the line in that first lap by William Byron. With no practice, there's no real indicator about, yes, you've got previous race notes, but how do we adjust those for how the track is driving this weekend? So in that situation, it's probably just going to come down to pure skill. And even though Larson has greatly improved, and he can, Larson's won the pole here at Sonoma 3 times out of 6 races, and he can undoubtedly throw down a fast lap, but I think it's just going to come down to pure road racing skill. And in that head-to-head matchup, I will take Chase. And I mean, Chase could easily lead half or more of this race from that second starting position.
Kyle Busch starting 5th. We're seeing him with some ownership. Joey Logano 13. So obviously you've got some potential in place differential there.
Yeah. Kyle is if you're playing Kyle, you are playing him as a bet to be one of the top 2 dominators because of where he's starting. With Logano, you don't have to take that bet. Logano offers you place differential. I wrote him up in Gas and Go as a potential GPP play. You may need him to grab some laps led, and quite frankly, he's been doing that. Whenever he gets near the front, he leads laps. It's not that many, but he is getting you some dominator points. You look at what he's done over the last 2 years. He's averaging you 6 laps led per race and 2.5 fastest laps. I mean, it's not fantastic, but he's getting you at least something. You pair that with that 13th starting position. Yeah, he's drastically improved as a road racer. His last 4 finishes have gone 3rd, 2nd, and 9th. But the question is, how do 3 Roval races plus a rain-affected COTA race translate to Sonoma, where he's been all right, not fantastic. He's generally been a safe bet here for a top 10 finish. His last 2 finishes have been pretty subpar, 23rd and 19th. So with whatever improvements Logano has found, whether that's him personally spending more sim time or Penske as a whole, and that affecting Logano, does that translate to this track tomorrow? I think he's worth taking a chance on. You're probably not going to have to go crazy just to match the field with Logano. I'm not too sure just if how popular he's going to be as a GPP option. When people look at his past stats here, they're not going to be blown away with it, and he may sneak under the radar with just how much he's improved. So if you want to play Logano as a tournament option, as a pivot off of, let's just say, Kyle or Hamlin or Larson, because of his place differential, where he doesn't have to lead the most or the second most laps compared to those other guys, that's a jumping off point I like.
Appreciate everyone being here on a Saturday afternoon, watching us here on the Awesemo YouTube channel. Of course, if you're here, maybe it's your first time here, you're not subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, be sure to hit that notification bell so you get alerts when a show does go live. And be sure to also check out a promo code we got going on right now for new Awesemo Plus members, that you can get a 15% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. All you got to do is use the promo code NASCAR Strategy Show. That's NASCAR Strategy Show, all caps, one word, for 15% off your first week of Awesemo Plus. If you are a new member, of course, you can check out in terms of the NASCAR content we have up there behind the paywall ownership projections, the top driver tools that you want to use to help develop your DFS lines. And as I always say, add Fantasy Cruncher to your account. One of the things I love to do with Fantasy Cruncher is I'll ask you to pop me out 500 lineups. And a lot of times it's more of, I just want to see what's put out there. And also, put in, to me, I'm always, 2 or 3 unique drivers per lineup and get that randomness in there so you can get some of the different lines. So that's just personally what I like to do. Just kind of see, even if I'm just playing in a single entry contest or it's a cash type contest, just kind of seeing the type of lineups that I can put up there. Moving on to tier number 2, this week, drivers in the 9K and 8K range. So we got Denny Hamlin starting 4th, Kyle Larson on the pole, William Byron 3rd, Ryan Blaney 11th, Kurt Busch starting 30th, Kevin Harvick starting 8th, Alex Bowman 7th, Brad Keselowski 9th, Christopher Bell 20th, Matty D 17th, Tyler Reddick starting 10th here. So who is the driver in this tier? Is it Kurt Busch starting 30th that really sticks out to you?
Yeah, and it feels disgusting because just Kurt is having just absolutely horrible luck. But the glimmer of light is that yesterday Hendrick came out and said the problems last week at Charlotte that the Chick Ganassi drivers were dealing with, it's our fault. That was mechanical issues because I believe their engines are coming from Hendrick directly. Mm-hmm. So it makes you wonder, okay, well, how did the Hendrick drivers finish 1, 2, 4, 5, but then the Ganassi drivers had their issues, but that's another issue. Plus Busch, if he can find his way into trouble, it's almost like Eric Almirola. If there is a negative spot on the track to be found, it's going to be found by one of these two. Kurt was running so in the race at COTA. Everyone remembers him nearly taking out his brother, going through the gravel, just pulling out one of the best driving moves that I've ever seen, driving through the gravel, staying on the grass, getting back on the track. He should have finished in the 30s along with Truex, but ended up nursing that sucker back to a 19th place finish. Kurt runs well here. His last 2 finishes have been 13th and 6th. If I look at the last 10 races at this track on the race sheets, Kurt's finishes go 13, 6, 7, 10, 2, 12, 4, 3, and then a win back when he was racing in the 2 for Penske. So he's been a pretty dependable driver here. If you're just going to take the stance that, you are literally taking with every other driver that he's going to complete this race, then Kurt has amazing potential. He's a must play in cash games because of that place differential. He's not overpriced at 9,100 on DraftKings or 8,500 on FanDuel. He feels like a really good play, and regardless of how you may feel about the equipment, the driver himself is probably still pretty good, and I'm going to bet on Kurt's talent starting 30th.
When you look at let's talk about Kyle Larson starting on the pole, 9,700 on DraftKings, 12,500 over on FanDuel. Obviously, he starts the front. He could jump out and immediately become a lap leader right from this get go.
Yeah, because that's with basically the same power that it's the 750 horsepower setup this week, with basically the same power that Chase Elliott has. All he has to do is be better through a couple of corners, put some space between him and Chase, and he could easily lead the first segment. And the expectation is that everybody that you would consider a contender is going to pit early. The playoff point situation has set itself up where these fringe guys, they're not going to do themselves a favor by staying out for stage points, because the amount of free spaces left for playoff spots via points, it's shrinking up every week. And you may see another situation where a driver, like, just say for kicks and grins, like a Kevin Harvick, ends up stealing a win this week. So that's going to be one fewer spot. So all of these drivers who would traditionally stay out for stage points. They're probably not going to do that. They're going to fall in line like the rest of these guys. So Larson leads the first segment. Everybody comes in with him to get, tires and gas. And then he just has to repeat that. And now he's leading the second segment. That's the situation that you're envisioning for Chase. It's the same thing that could easily happen for Larson. I think the chances are greater that Chase pulls that off, but you've got to give a tip of the hat to Larson. Like we talked about, Larson has raced at Sonoma 6 times. For Chip Ganassi, he won the pole 3 times. He is fully capable of putting down a very fast lap here. And now you put him in Hendrick equipment, chances are even better that he can put down a fast lap here. And if he does it on that first lap, he could easily put enough space between him and Chase where they're both running similar times that he keeps that distance there and becomes a dominator.
In terms of the drivers that are in this range between the 8 and just under 10,000 range here on DraftKings, is there a driver in here that it's kind of a buyer beware type situation of, because of what their salary is, they may not pay off, at a price point we're going to want to be optimal?
Oh, if it's gonna be like anybody that I'm just straight up not playing, you can look at the race sheets, and I don't have Brad Keselowski highlighted for anything. This has been one of his worst tracks. Compared to Watkins Glen, he traditionally does better at Watkins Glen. Over the last 10 races here, Brad has a 3rd place finish, but then practically everything else is in the teens. Going from 2019 in reverse, it's 18th, 13th, then that 3rd, then 15th, 19th, 22nd, 21st, 12th, 10th, and 35th. So Brad's a driver that I'm not going to have in my lineups. He doesn't really offer me any upside as a lap leader. I fear that he's just going to end up falling backwards. You look at his finishes here. I mean, like I said, it's not fantastic. I really don't like his prospects. If there's a guy that I worry about him being okay, because he's probably going to get you a top 5, a top 10 finish, but it's not going to be fantastic by any means. It could easily be Denny Hamlin. Like, Denny should be a threat to lead laps here, but he's got he's got 3 Hendrick cars either starting in front of him or next to him, and they could just play the blocking game, be faster than him, and Hamlin's going to give you a finish, probably where he starts, and you're going to be struggling just to get 4 to 4.5x out of him. He's a driver that needs, because he's starting 4th, he needs to lead laps. And I worry because of both Larson and Elliott starting in front of him, and Byron, who's become really good at road races, starting right next to him, that Hamlin could absolutely lead no laps whatsoever on Sunday.
As I take a peek at the ownership projections, which, of course, if you want to get access to that, you can sign up for an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95, or you can get just a Awesemo NASCAR weekly pass for $9.95. And the driver that we're getting a ton of ownership on, starting 20th, Christopher Bell, 8,400 on DraftKings. Yeah,
once again, Bell's another driver, hasn't seen this track in the Xfinity Series or the Truck Series, so these will be his inaugural laps tomorrow. Starting 20th, he gives you place differential. But the thing that you have to look at here, and everybody's going to reference the Daytona Road Course where he won. But remember, if it wasn't for that late caution, he wouldn't have been in that situation to win. He probably would have ended up with a top 5 finish, because he was running pretty good in that race, but just outright winning, I don't think that happens without that caution. But then you look at the rest of these finishes. Now, discount what happened at COTA, finished 38th, but then the Charlotte Roval, 24th, the Daytona Road Course in 2019, a 21st finish. So we've got this one peak race out of him, that Daytona Road Course from back in February, that I think is really skewing how people look at Bell. Bell's probably a top 10 driver, you have to give him a bump because this is utilizing the 750 horsepower package. But I worry about what's it going to be like with him for his first time seeing this track. And plus, I wonder just how good he really is. Something that you can look at if you look at the race sheets, these four road races for Bell last year and then this year, his average running position, it sits at 15.6. So if that's where we're going to see Bell finish tomorrow, you're paying $8,400 for a guy that's going to gain five positions. You're probably not going to be too excited with that.
Of course, I mentioned about the premium tools and data that we have over at Awesemo.com. And today we got some free content for you on the site, as we got MLB player projections, NBA big board, NHL main slate, ownership projections, and the MMA top fighters tools. So be sure to check out that free premium tools and data we have over at Awesemo.com. Of course, do want to send a special thank you to our sponsor, Monkey Knife Fight. We've been telling you about them for a while now. Of course, go to monkeyknifefight.com. Their player props contest, and Monkey Knife Fight has an instant first match deposit bonus of up to $100 when you sign up with the promo code Awesemo. Once again, promo code Awesemo for an instant first match deposit up to $100. You can play their NASCAR contest over there, or you can play all the other sports they have over there. So be sure to check out our sponsor, Monkey Knife Fight. Let's move on to tier number 3. This will be the drivers in the 6K and 7K range. So we've got Eric Amarola starting 26th, Ross Chastain starting 29th, Michael McDowell 21st, Cole Custer 23rd, Austin Dillon 6th, Chris Buescher 12th, Eric Jones 18th, Chase Briscoe 25th, Ryan Preece 27th, Bubba Wallace 15th, Daniel Suarez 16th, Ryan Newman 24th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 14th, Corey LaJoie is starting in the 22nd position. Let me just start off here. Let me start with Michael McDowell, who at 7,600 on DraftKings is getting a notable amount of ownership.
Yeah, I love McDowell. McDowell over the last 4 road races, 7th, 8th, then you've got a 32nd in the Charlotte Roval, and then 10th. So it's hard to find a driver in this range, and quite frankly, in the field, that has 3 top 10 finishes. I don't want to go over the moon about a 7th place finish at COTA, but the fact that he survived that rain and found his way into the top 10, that's probably something pretty notable. He's a guy that I think is going to find his way into a bunch of my lineups. People are going to look at his past 2 races here at Sonoma, 25th and 21st. But God, that Michael McDowell, that versus what we've seen this season and last season, it's almost like they're 2 different drivers, 2 different race teams. I would not be too concerned about that. Plus, the thing that you have to give McDowell that he has over guys like Christopher Bell above, or Cole Custer, Chase Briscoe, all in this range, is he actually has track time. Here he has race notes, he has experience on this track. He knows he has a pretty good idea of what to expect. You may not like paying this much for Michael McDowell, but DraftKings and especially FanDuel at 8,000, which is probably the highest that he's ever been on FanDuel, they are pricing him up because of how he's done at road races and because of that experience. I'm not afraid of paying that money for him.
2 other drivers in this tier that are getting ownership: Ross Chastain starting 29th at 7,700, and then Ryan Newman starting 24th at 6,300. Yeah,
Ross is getting a sizable bump because of that 4th place finish at COTA, and credit to him. I mean, he is not afraid to race like he's playing with other, like he's gone to a casino and he's playing with other people's money. He was making aggressive moves in the rain, and I think it was because he was driving a whole lot more aggressive than he probably should have, and that's why he was able to move up throughout the field. But he was staying in the top 10 for the majority of that race. So we'll give Chastain the bump because he is a competent road racer. You look at his finish here in 2019, that was a 33rd place finish, but that was in the 15. And that 15 wasn't even for Rick Ware. That was for oh God, I believe it was like Premium Motorsport. So it was definitely a step down in equipment. This was a team, the 42, that constantly set up good cars for Kyle Larson, gave him fast cars that put him on the pole 3 times out of 6 times. So they know how to set him up for a road race. I think that if you're playing cash, you may not like Chastain, but I think that you've got to put him in here because of where he starts, because of his potential. And Newman is going to be interesting to see what people do with him. Ryan on it's iFantasy Race on Twitter, he was bringing up this good point that Sonoma is a high tire wear track, and you don't think about road races as high tire wear venues just simply because they're not ovals, but this is a high tire wear track. So managing tire wear is definitely a skill here. You look at what Newman has done at the high tire wear venues. He's had some good finishes this year managing his tires. And quite frankly, it's something that he's carried over throughout his career at different tracks here at Sonoma. His last 2 finishes are you've got a 7th back in 2019 and then a 24th. So you look at that 7th place finish, that gives you a little bit of hope. You look at what Newman's done his last 4 races, 24th, 20th, 31st, and 19th. So at 6,300, if Newman was in the 7Ks, this might be a little bit of a tougher discussion, but Newman is almost down in the punt range. So if you need to save salary, Newman's probably going to give you a 15th to an 18th place finish tomorrow, and at 6,300, that's fine.
Mention 2 questions here in the chat. First off, Wyatt asks, can we trust Ross Chastain after seeing his COTA performance?
I believe so. I believe so for the most part. That it gives you a lot of hope that he has skill. And the 42 team has generally been a good Chip Ganassi in general. You think about this. Chip Ganassi started off in Indy, so they should know what they're doing when it comes to setting up road racing cars. Jamie McMurray was traditionally a pretty good road racer. And plus, we talked about this with James Davison. How many times has Indy been here to Sonoma? So you've got those notes from those races that you can take here and say, okay, this is definitely not going to be apples to apples, but there's something that we can take here and put into these cars knowing what the setup should be. And it's paid off. So I do really like Ross Chastain tomorrow.
DFS Turtle asking you, what seems to be the most logical build? Dominator of place differential, filling the rest, or sticking to drivers towards the front balanced out. And this is obviously something we talked about a little bit earlier, where we're putting more emphasis on place differential finishing positions as opposed to dominators.
Right. I think the easiest thing that people are going to do is this is the trap that people get into at road races. Is it's tough to differentiate between these guys who are starting up at the front about who's going to be the top lap leader. And the easy pick is just going with Chase Elliott, and that traditionally plays off. But you say, okay, I know Truex has won here twice. I'm going to start off with him, and then you start thumbing down, because believe me, most people that play DFS, they are not watching these videos. They are not looking at the race sheets. They are not looking at the top driver tool. They are not building lineups with Fantasy Cruncher. They are opening up their phone and they're thumbing down the player pool. Mm-hmm. So they start off with Truex, and then they say, oh, hey, look, Kurt Busch starts 30th. And they say, oh, hey, there's Christopher Bell. He starts 20th. And now I'm in the 7 and 6K range. Now I'm just continuing to look at these drivers with place differential upside. I think that the majority of lineups tomorrow are going to be place differential based. And this is a side note. If you're playing cash games, do not play multi-entry cash games. There's probably going to be so many ties that you're going to hit the cash line, but you're probably going to end up losing money. So I know a lot of people that play cash, they will not venture into head-to-heads. play some head-to-head games. That's the only way that you're going to get away from these trains and cash, unless you find yourself in some single entry double ups or 50-50s. But regardless, I think a lot of people are just going to do the simple and the safest thing and stick with place differential. But 90 laps is 90 laps, and that's still plenty of room for these guys to score dominator points. So I really do think that don't let yourself just do the safe thing and just try to chase place differential. You've got to get one, maybe even two lap leaders in your lineups.
Trust me, I saw it last night in NBA. It's in my 20 max. The winning lineup was split by a zillion people, and they won $11.
Yeah, it is bananas.
Yeah, it's those showdown contests can be kind of difficult when you're trying to separate yourself from the field. In terms of some other drivers in here, let me just kind of mention someone like an Austin Dillon starting 6. What is the path to someone in his position to be optimal?
He's got to block like hell and just stay put. And God, Dillon's history as a road racer, not good. His finish at COTA of 12th, that was the best he's ever done at a road race. This is a guy that traditionally runs in the back of the teens or even the 20s. Like, he's seen plenty of road races in his truck, Xfinity, and Cup career, but it's never translated for the guy. With the addition of Tyler Reddick, it seems like he's gotten a little bit better. Like whatever notes or setup Reddick is going with, they're using with Austin Dillon. So I mean, that if you're going to play Dillon, it's like last week at Charlotte, but on a much riskier scale. You've just got to hope and pray that he can block, he can stay put. And can Dillon do that? Possibly, but you've got to look at who is starting around Dillon in that range around him. Can he block these guys that are obviously better road racers? That's the tougher task, I think.
Of course, you want to rock that Awesemo avatar on your DFS profile. You can get that at awesemo.com/avatar. And if you want to get into the Awesemo Hall of Fame, place in the top 3 of a contest with over 5,000 entries, tweet those wins to @AwesemoHOF. On Twitter, you'll win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum, and you can only get a free month will be awarded once per calendar year. So you can see those, they're on the screen there. Congratulations to Hunter in MLB, Jason in NBA, Colin and also in NBA, and Brandon taking down winnings in MLB. Of course, download that Awesemo Avatar app at awesemo.com/avatar so you can get into the Hall of Fame when you place in the top 3 in a GPP with over 5,000 entries. Moving on to the final tier here, which, Phill, we're not getting much ownership. Well, really hardly any ownership. In terms of this one, so we've got Anthony Alfredo starting 28th, James Davison 32nd, Ben Rhodes 31st, Josh Belucki 36th, Garrett Smithley 34, Scott Heckert 35th, Cody Ware 37th, Quinn Hoff 33. Who can we play down here? Is there anyone that you want to go to that may potentially, in terms of roster construction, allows you to get to, those higher salaries that you're trying to pair together?
I've got 2 names for you, one for cash and one for tournaments. I think you can actually play Anthony Alfredo in cash this week. Okay. Like as much as I worry about guys that are seeing this track for the first time, I've said this twice about Anthony Alfredo at the Daytona Road Course and then at COTA. Alfredo's finished 18th at COTA and 22nd at the Daytona Road Course. Like, maybe this kid, he spends a ton of time behind the sim. He has a Twitch channel where he does practically nothing but the iRacing stuff. Maybe he spends so much time behind the sim that it's actually translating into what he's doing on the track, and it's paying off. I mean, I would not expect top 25 finishes out of Alfredo at road courses, but it's happened. So I mean, if if that's what we're looking at with Alfredo, then I don't have any reason to think that he's probably not going to just pull off the same thing. Plus, and you always have to remember this with teammates. Who's his teammate? It's Michael McDowell. McDowell probably just goes over to his Alfredo's crew chief and says, okay, this is what you need to do with the springs. This is what you need to do with the rear sway bar. This is what you're going to do, blah, 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 blah. So what are the chances that Alfredo's team is just using McDowell's setup? Probably pretty good, and it's paying off. So you've got those converging factors. I think Alfredo is probably a good bet for a finish between 18th to 22nd place. And at 5,800, like if you need to dip below 6,000, then Alfredo's probably the guy that you're looking at. In tournaments, you might consider Davison because he's seen this track before, but his best finish out of these past 4 road races has been 23rd. That was at the Daytona Road Course. Everything else has been 29th or 30th. I'm going to go down to Garrett Smithley. Smithley has impressed me with what he's done in this Rick Ware car. This season, finishes of 28th and 27th. Yeah, that's not fantastic, but at $5,000 on DraftKings and the bare minimum, like if you're shooting for the moon on FanDuel, where you're going to stack as many of these top tier guys trying to get as many top 5 finishes plus whatever place differential and lap sled points they're going to get, and then you're just trying to smash in one of these guys down here at the bottom, Smithley could easily fit that bill at $2,000. He's finishing the races. He's getting you top 30 finishes. He's probably going to pick up a little place differential. Like I'm not enthralled about it, but if you need to dip down in this range because you've gone, let's just say, for example, you've gone Elliott, you've gone Truex, you've gone Kurt, and then maybe you snuck in Christopher Bell, and then you need to get someone down this range. Shoot, why not, Smithley?
Of course, we have all of your DFS coverage over at Awesemo.com, and we just launched our premium tennis DFS projections, which are free for the French Open, which will be going behind the paywall once Wimbledon gets here. So right now is your chance to preview them. So just go over to Awesemo.com right underneath the tennis section to check that out. Of course, if you do have any questions or comments, we'll get into those here in the final couple minutes here left in the show. DJ saying, do you like Eric Jones at all?
Oh, okay. Eric in much better equipment. Let's look at what he did here at Sonoma. And this is only going to be a handful of races. His first race here, and this, if you're looking for any indication of what happens with rookies at this track, his first race here was a 25th place finish. But then he got some track time, and then it was back-to-back top 10 finishes. And I believe in that 2019, yes, of course, Eric started 32nd, so he picked up 24 spots, but he was in that optimal lineup. Eric at $7,000. I think he's a bit overpriced, and he's priced up because of his Sonoma history here. But remember, this isn't the Richard Petty car. When Bubba was here in this car, when Bubba was in any road race, he did not finish well, but I think that was more a problem with Bubba's road racing skill versus anything else. But the 2 races here in the 43 for Eric Jones at road races, 16th and 14th. So you're probably betting on another top 16, maybe top 15 finish for a driver who has run well here at this track. In tournaments, I can definitely get behind that. I think for him to be optimal, you're going to need a finish closer to top 10 for Jones, especially with both Briscoe and Priest starting 25th or worse. But I think Jones is capable of doing it.
Next up, Wyatt's got a pair of questions. The first one is, can MDB get us a top 10? And the second one is what is your thoughts on Daniel Suarez?
Okay, let's find Suarez. Starting 16th. He's an odd case. Let's look back at his at his history here. 3 races, 17th, 15th, and 16th. 2 of those races were for Joe Gibbs. The 17th place finish was for Stuart Haas. He had a good, I would definitely call that a good rookie run, finishing 16th. But remember, Suarez cut his teeth in Mexico running road races. He's got plenty of road racing experience. The 2 races that Suarez has this season, the 33rd, that was a mechanical issue, but then at the Daytona Road Course, he was a 16th place finish. Basically, I'm going to say that Suarez is just a $600 cheaper version of Eric Jones. So if you like Eric Jones, the same reasons that you like Eric Jones, you're probably going to like Daniel Suarez. And he's just, he's cheaper. So I think Suarez in tournaments is a play that I can get behind. And Matty D, Lord, at that price of above $8,000, you need Matty D to get somewhere between fifth to 10th, and I don't think he's there. His 4 finishes in the 21 at road races: 23rd, 37th, 22nd, 15th. So his best finish has been a 15th place finish. Yes, he's got a 4th place finish here in the 2019 race, but that was under some odd circumstances that got him to that place. And that was in the 95. That was in the Joe Gibbs affiliated car. So he hasn't been here in the 21. His history at road races in the 21, it's not spectacular. I don't think you're going to see that out of Matty D, and I don't think I'm going to end up having them in tournaments.
Of course, if you're not subscribed, also right here on YouTube, you got to do that. We got a ton of great shows for you each and every day. Coming next week, myself and Pete Rogers Jr. for UFC Live Before Lock, and then we'll have MLB Live Before Lock, and then we'll have a pair of NBA shows to wrap up today. Let's finish on these 2 questions. It goes, am I throwing the COTA stats out the window when doing my research?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I think for the most part, that race was so screwy because of the rain. Remember, to start off with, they let drivers and teams decide, okay, you've got rain tires on, you can come back in and put slicks on if you think that the track's drying up. So they just left it up to the teams. A lot of teams came in for slicks, and then just as soon as the race started, the deluge happened. A lot of teams had to come in right then to change out to rain tires. The track was just a mess because of the rain. They had to call the race like 11, 12 laps early because of standing rain on the backstretch. I think there was just so many extenuating circumstances in that event that you probably aren't considering COTA. Yeah, I think you're probably doing yourself a favor if you just pretend like that race didn't exist.
Is Ryan Preece your favorite cheap play?
I think my favorite cheap play might be either Newman or Alfredo. Preece is priced up, and he's been running particularly well. His last 3 finishes at road races have gone 15th, 9th, and 14th. I really haven't seen this out of Preece per se. His one lone start here, once again, his rookie start here in 2019 at Sonoma was a 29th place finish. So he's improved as a road racer. I wish he was a little bit cheaper, but he's a guy that is going to find his way into a bunch of my lineups tomorrow.
And of course, keep it locked here to Awesemo.com as we got you covered for all of your DFS needs here. Of course, coming up next is UFC Live Before Lock with myself and Pete Rogers Jr. Of course, you can follow Phill on social media at Race Sheets DFS. He's also in our premium Slack channel. So if you got any questions for Phill, be sure to check him out there in Slack as you get ready to put together your lineups for tomorrow's NASCAR race. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Awesemo NASCAR DFS Strategy Show. Special thanks to our sponsor, Monkey Knife Fight. Be sure to use that promo code Awesemo for an instant first match deposit up to $100. Talk to you later.